So we are going to keep on reviewing hands with Plo Vision. This is an amazing software, but I run it once. I recommend everyone to buy it because it's really something amazing to practice your game. So on this spot, well, we are going to play with 100 BBs, and we could also play from the blinds. And okay, let's generate some hands here. So this spot was 3-bet, and then we decide to bet 1/3 with a king high flush, and someone raises us. I think we're going to call here. And if they put us all in, then we're going to pot here. Yeah, we cannot get away with our king high flush. What else here? Here the pre-flop 3-better decides to lead. Not to lead, but to c-bet pot. We have an easy fold on this spot. We would pot with a nut flush draw. We would pot also with hearts and with spades, and we would call with bad hearts and decide on the flop. Okay. Decide on the turn, I mean. Okay, what happened here? I think we're going to call here, probably fold. Okay, we're folding because the I'm wondering what would we do with the king of spades on our hand, but apparently this is not a possibility on that board. No spades, one gut shot. Okay, still we decide to fold. 9-10 queen. If we would check back 20% of the time with our particular holding, but queens and hearts decide to check back pretty often. With one heart also you can slow play just a little bit more, just because you are blocking your opponent from having a high flush. He could still have something like aces, I guess. Aces and hearts. But yeah, something to keep in mind. You do not need to always bet your top set, especially when you're blocking when you also have flush draws. 776. Backdoor spades, but yeah, okay. Here we decide to lead with our bad flush draw, and I think we have backdoor spades, but here I think we have to fold because the queen high flush is not that great. We would call. So we are calling with backdoors and with hearts. Blind against blind. What is interesting is that we are limping with ace jack 7-3. Not raising, and here I think we have to fold here. And now we raise with our hand, big blind raise, and we call. And now he bets half pot, I think. Yeah, okay. Small blind raise, big blind call, and now it goes 50% C bet. No, 50% bet, 50% raise. I think that, so we bet with the 8, 9, 10 jack. This guy 3 bet. I think this is just a call. We are almost always calling and almost never raising. It's very unbalanced if you start 3-betting those hands, probably. And maybe you want some bluffs to be in like 10 jack or something like that. Okay. King jack 8, 3-bet pot. And okay, so we 3-bet on the button with the 8, 9, 10 queen. No, we open, and then someone 3-bets on the button with that hand. We call, and then we donk the flop. We bet, and they maybe we can. Okay, we have to fold our pot. I was thinking about, well, we need like 38% equity or something, so yeah, I think we have to pot. We're not very happy about our hand at this moment, but okay, here the board is kind of dynamic, so we decide to bet 75%, and it's a single raise spot where we call on the button with that particular hand. I think this is a nice hand to check back because we have a pair, we have a non-nut flush draw. So yeah, with the non-nut flush draw, you prefer to check. With the nut flush draw, you prefer to bet, especially if you have spades. Once in a blue moon, you can decide to check back with the nut flush draw as well. And yeah, with the spades, you check back as well. With this particular holding, you check back because you want to see the turn. See if you can. If a heart rolls off, then you have a pretty strong hand. Okay, here you 3-bet on the button, and that guy decides to lead into you. Okay, you have to pair, call or pot. I think when he leads, I don't think he's going to fold, so I would just call and probably bluff hearts, maybe. So even with Queen 10 and hearts, you also decide to call. That's because if you are beat against a set of queens or 10, something like that, and otherwise you're in great shape. So which hands you decide to raise? So when you have a hard blocker, you decide to raise, but not the ace of spades, because probably with this holding you're going to bluff turns. And also, since you have the ace of hearts, it's a bit more likely than your opponent has a queen, queens or tens. Here, early position raise, and he c-bets. But this is obviously an easy fold here. King, Queen 8. 10 of spades as a blocker. I think I would bet 33 here. Oh, it's a check. Ah, okay, because we are out of position, right? Yeah, we are out of position. If our opponent bets here, calling, not particularly happy about with our hand, to be honest. Here the board is 3-bet. I think you can get away betting 1/3. Okay, so this guy is the 3-better. Well, I think we have to fold here. So we open with the ace queen, queen 4. Someone leads into us, which is a bit weird. and that thing we can only call here. Mostly calling some braces. Yeah, mostly calling here. On the 40% of the time you apparently raise. Okay. Here the preflop aggressor, the big blind 3 bets, the small blind. We decide to lead because we have some range advantage probably with the 6-7 there. Our opponent shouldn't have many 6-7. We do not hold hearts, but we have backdoor spades, and also the jack is pretty nice to have because we are blocking 10 jack. We decide to bet because we are blocking our opponent's value range, but our opponent raises, so we have to fold here, and we would then we would then fold a flush draw there. Okay, what happens here? 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we just fold here without tens. Our opponent could have something like aces and hearts, something like that. Here the button 3 bets us, and we decide to lead with the small flush draw. He raises, I think we call here. The queen is very bad hand, and we have to but I think I would fold here probably. The preflop aggressor checks, and so should we. And on this spot we would bet with our nut flush draw, nut flush draw blocker, and probably we check back bad flush draws. Well, it's a mix actually between checking back and betting. But without the spades, it's just a check here. With backdoor spades, it's a mixed strategy. Five, 6, 4. We 3-bet with the exact time 10, and then they bet us on the flop. Call. Call. Okay. It's pretty close. We fold without backdoors, but we call with backdoor hearts, and we have backdoor straight draws as well. Although there is a 12% of fold here, so not terrible if you fold just here. It's queen 10. We 3-bet on the button with that particular hand. Yeah, we do not have hearts or king jack. Bet. Fuck me. Okay. So yeah, because we 3-bet, our range is super strong, so apparently on that flop we should 3-bet 96% of our hands. So this allows us to bet on that particular board. Okay, something to keep in mind. 5-5-6. We open under the gun with that hand, and then the preflop aggressor, 3-better on the button, bet. I think we can call here. That's folding. And I'm sorry, I thought that we had hearts. We just have the backdoor spades. Yeah, no, with that heart it's okay to fold. Three, 5, 6. Have backdoor spades, although 3 spades. It's a single raise spot. I think we have to check back this bet. We bet 70% and we fold 30%, and we check when we do not have backdoors. We bet 50. So we check everything, but when we open the club draw, then we decide to bet. This 4-5. The board was 3-bet pre-flop. Then he decides to bet 1/3. What should we do here? I think we have to fold. It's pretty mixed, but we space we call he opens, calls, then he checks the flop, we decide to bet, we got check raise, and this is an easy fold here. This guy decides to lead, and eight and jack. Well, obvious fold. Six, 6-4. The preflop aggressor has a lot of, and we have the 5-7-8 ace. We would donk here like 20% of the time, 18%, but with this particular combo we are going to lead like 60% of the time, so obviously, I mean, makes a strategy for sure. If we had the ace of hearts, we would lead also like 60% of the time. I think you cannot make it 100 just because this is a board that you are going to check very often, and because of this you cannot lead all the hands that you would like for value. We open with this particular combo, and then they call us. We are blocking the 8, the straight. With the ace, we have the ace of hearts. I think we can bet here. Without the heart, it's actually more of a check. Check, bet. Yeah, well, with the ace of hearts and the spades, so yeah, betting when you have one heart and just checking. Probably check folding without a heart. Here the preflop aggressor raised. And here on the pot he decides to c-bet out of position. And then he gets check raised. I think this is an easy call. Most of the time. If you were to go all in, this would look insanely strong. Here what happened, well, the board you 3-bet on the pre-flop with, now you open with ace king 7-7, and then they 3-bet you call, and then the flop you fire a 50% bet. Now somehow dynamic board, but it's not as dry as a flash board, but it's not as dynamic as 910 jack or something like that. And anyway, the pot is 3-bet, so you could get away with betting half pot on a910 probably. A10 jack, dry board, you can see bet 1/3. With this particular holding, I think you have to check fold here. Check. So you check really often on those boards. Even with something like the ace of, well, you absolutely want to check with some bad flush draws. And you bet some of the time with your aces, and sometimes when you have the ace blocker, you bet as well some of the time. So yeah, that's the thing, because on 3-bet pots, your range advantage is not as big. You have to check pretty often. And you're going to lead sometimes with your nut flashes, sometimes with your nut flash draw, but probably no more than 60 or 70%, just because you have to check back a lot on this with this board texture. So do you say jack? Well, first of all, we're going to check raise here, like, I don't know, 20% of the time, maybe. I don't think it's just a call, I would assume. Yeah, so we would raise here to 75% pot, just 20% of our hands, and we would fold quite a bit here. Anyway, this is a call. The turn, I guess it depends on the turn, but it's going to be a bit difficult to play for sure. Here 5-4 deuce, he decides to bet half pot. Maybe you can go a bit higher just because the pot is single raise. Maybe that's why you can bet just half pot and not just 1/3. Anyway, here so we decide to 3-bet with this deuce 10 jack queen, which is okay, I guess, probably not always a 3-bet. And then you bet half pot and you get check raise. Obviously this is a fold. 8-4-3, blind against blind. The preflop aggressor. Checks. Here, big blind decides to bet 75% pot. You have 8-4, no, 8-3. You get check raise. This is a spot where you actually, I don't think you want to raise back, because if you raise back, you're going to find aces, fours, something like ace 5-6 X of hearts, which has a lot of equity against yourself. So it's either between folding and calling. I think probably calling is in order. Okay, calling. You have also backdoor spades. Without backdoor spades, would you actually fold? No, you would call. Pretty much calling. Okay. But a3 with a heart, you can decide to just to put it. E3 with hearts, just because if your opponent has a set, then he's not going to pair up all that easy, I guess. And if he has a flush draw, since you're holding two, well, first of all, you could be ahead with your king 8 if he has something like 5, 6, 7, 9 with hearts, something like that. And second, if he has the ace of hearts, then he's not going to make that many flushes because you are holding some blockers to his flush. So it's totally fine to pair plus flush draw to stick it in on the flop. Here the 6-5-5. The preflop aggressor checks. Here I think you can bet 1/3. Okay, it's 50%. Yeah, you have pretty much a lot. You have quite a bit of equity here, but your hand is not that strong at the moment. However, you bet with this hand, but you decide to check back some of your flush draws, which look insane, but it's how the solver is going to check back a lot of middle flush draws, and normally to bet the nut flush draws. 5-5 jack. You're the preflop aggressor. Okay, this is an easy fold here. This is a marginal bet on the flop, probably. Queen 8. The preflop aggressor 3 bets out of position, and here decides to bet. This is wow, that's, I would fall here, but between folding and calling. 51-49. So yeah, the thing is that this guy could have something like 8-9-10 jack. With the clubs, you call a bit more here. Because this guy could have something like king, queen, 10, for example. King, queen, 10, something with that you have a bit of equity against that hand. But difficult spot though. This is a board. The c-bet size is 1/3 here. I think you wanna call here because you're blocking the flush and you have a 5 and a gut shot. Yeah. Folding without the spade, calling with spades, even with the nut spade, because you shouldn't raise this flop all that often. The 6-6-9. Have backdoor clubs. I think you can just bet here. It's probably mixed a strategy. So you bet with the clubs. You check a bit more often without it, with Um, Five, six, eight. Just well, this is a check fold, obviously. Four, seven, jack. Small blind opens. And you have deuce, four, ace, jack. No hearts. No, nothing here. This is an easy check. Jack 5-5. The preflop aggressor is going to have a lot of, well, some aces, kings, queens. Could have jacks as well. You have on the button ace deuce 3-3 double suited. Brown, the correct answer is bad. Okay, so you check back without two flush draws. You check back a bit more often with one backdoor, but apparently with two backdoor flush draws and also backdoor straight draws, you decide to bet a bit more. And it's not even close. It's very, very often a bet here. Okay, ace 8-4. So here you decide to call, not particularly happy about it, but and obviously you are going to call as well with the king of spades, because why is that? Well, you are calling a lot, almost never raising. So if you start to raise with those king X of spades, then you would be unbalanced. What would you do with just the king? With just the king of spades, you just call as well. A33. This is a board where you are blocking, well, you have quads and you are blocking the nut flush draw, so it's an easy check on the flop. Here he decides to bet you half pot, and then you are going to check call here. Here the preflop aggressor decides to lead 4 pot. You have a pair of fives and the nut flush draw. I think it's a good hand to stick it in. Should you call some hands? No. Even with the, well, you are not opening is queen jack 5 without the nut flush, so Ajax 10-5. The board is 3-bet, and then you're out of position and you have to check because you do not have spades. This was check on the flop. Then you have to call here. Decide on the river. Probably fold. Unless the board pairs. Here what happens, the board is you raise from the small blind, big blind 3-bets, decide to call, and then small blind leads into you. What should you do here? I think that you should probably raise because your hearts are a bit low. A call. Correct answer is just call. Call. Why is that? Call. Okay, yeah. So you call just because you are calling very often. Because you almost never have 5-6, so. With 5-6 no hearts, even, you call as well. Okay. Here what happens? 7, 8, 10. Small blind raises. Big blind calls. You decide to lead with the ace blocker. You get the raise. Okay, and you raised on the button, small blind 3-bets, and then checks the flop. You should okay, it's not 1/3 but 50. Maybe you start the bluff here. So yeah, with low frequency you bet. With a spade, with 2 spades you always bet. With 3 spades you kind of check a little bit more. And with a bad flush draw you check back. So here you can bluff. Just a low frequency play, but something you can do here. 8-9-9. You have an open-ended backdoor straight draw. Probably want to check back to see the turn if spade rolls off. Well, kind of a mixed strategy here. Well, not really, I mean, no. Okay, so with your particular hand, you always you always bet. Even if it's something rainbow, you bet quite often. However, when you have the hearts, you really want to see the flop, the turn. Too strong to bet, so they say, because you don't really want to call a check raise with this particular holding. So that's why you're checking so often. Use for 10, bet, raise. Oh. 6, 7, 10. You are holding the ace of hearts and the 9, which is great. So, and this board also doesn't connect all that often with 3-better range. So I think you can lead this some of the time at least. If someone raises you, what on earth do you do? I think just spot here. Yeah, you cannot get away with your hand here. Just calling. Well, you have some potential backdoor clubs. A gut shot to the nuts, but I think you have to fold here. He bets 1/3. This is very dry board. He raises you, so I think you probably have to fold here. Queens, very dry board as well. Just calling for sure. Ace deuce 7/7. Small blind raise, you call here. Oh. Yeah, and this has to be a fold, even if you have the 7 of spades. It's not such an important blocker. It's just a too low on a spade. Okay, here I think this has to be a call, just because you're holding a high spade and you have a pair. I think, okay, no, it's a fold. And it's a raise. Okay, it's a call with just one spade. I raise some of the time with 2 spades. and a call with 3 spades, because the guy could be bluffing with a king of spades, something like that. I think this is a pot, believe it or not. No, just a call. Yeah, just a call because you do not have, apart from your flush draw, you do not have many straight draws equity, so to speak. Into some 9, call. Ah, no, yeah. No, I mean, I wanted the button to bet. Ah, okay, here. And what about the river? Pretty difficult decision there. Probably call most of the time, maybe fold once in a while. Queen 6-8. What should we do here? Backdoor spades, so I think you have to call here. Call, although folding some percentage of the time, so it's not all that clear. With spades and hearts, you're very happy calling and sometimes even raising. With the king jacks, yeah, with the combo king jack 7-5, you're just racing. With the combo king 7 jack 5, calling. Why? Because you probably want the jack X of hearts to be there when you hit your flush, I would assume. Yeah, but not a big deal if you shove on the flop anyway with the king jack 5-7 to hearts. Here what happened? Raise, re-raise, and probably fold. Pretty hard. Still calling with the ace of hearts. It's king 10-4, which has some backdoor potential, I guess. Backdoor straight draw, although you could be running dead at that moment. Damn it. I think call. Call. Why call? Well, in order to bluff the turn, I guess. Six deuce. You raise, the big blind 3 bets you call, your play. Well, obviously this has to be a check. And a check call on the flop, probably the turn as well. Well, now it's a fold, I think. Your play check. And well, this obviously it's a fold. What? The correct answer is raise. Why on earth do you want to raise this? It looks more like a fold or a call this. Yeah, I don't know about that one. So raising with the kings and hearts, you're just calling here. Because, I mean, you're crushing so much the board. So yeah, you are calling here with top set and then at flush draw. Okay. You have blockers, but you do not want to call raises with your blockers. Okay, now you 3-bet on the button with the ace jack 4, and obviously, okay, but bet big or bet small. I think that you have to bet big on this particular spot, because you do not hold hearts, or also the combination 9-10 jack is small. So which hands do you want to bet small? So no, apparently you want to get small like most of the range. When you have backdoor spades and also when you have a heart or two hearts. I'm checking here some of the time. Well, now it's time to stick it in. Deuce 3-7. Wow. Not a difficult hand here. 5-5-3, no hearts, no pair. The queen. Yeah, I think this is just a fold. Queen 8-6. They lead into you. I mean, you lead. They raise you, and here, obviously, this is a fold. Now I think you have to fold here. You had the aces blocker for the not flush draw on the turn, but fold is the correct answer. You are potting with two backdoors, and yeah, because with two backdoors you just need 48. Yeah, you have enough, this 8% equity. That's a lot, but with one backdoor yeah, that's with just one flush draw you fall. Yeah, so you fold almost everything except when you have the backdoor flush draws. Three, four, four, five. Wow. Bet 1/3 here. Quite often. You could check some of the time. What happens if he raises? So with three spades, you pot just because you're afraid of a set of jacks, I guess. What else? Let's say we go. Okay, so he wants to block the river, I guess. So someone 3-bets us on the big blind. No, I mean we 3-bet on the big blind, then we bet half pot on the flop. They check raised us. What on earth should we do here? I think we have to fold, or no, probably call. Call and bluff. Ah, raise. Fuck me. Okay, I thought he was going to call and then bluff the river. And if he has a set, we still have a gut shot, I guess. 5, 6, 8. Check. Continue. Someone bets. What on earth do we do here? Call. Pretty marginal hand before here. When we have an EC4 here, we are not going to. I mean, having a spade is huge on those monotone boards. Ace King 3-3. Backdoor clubs. Wouldn't be a bad hand to bet fold, I guess. Okay, so just mixing it up, I guess. Mixing it up, but actually. So yeah, this is a board that you're going to check quite often because you do not have all. I mean, you have some sixes, but so does your opponent. So your pre-flop initiative doesn't matter all that much. So since you are out of position, you want to check really, really often. And with a hand like a 6, yeah, with a 6 you are going to check to. So yeah, you have some 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 8, 8. But yeah, you're going to check a lot your sixes as well. So this is a good rule of thumb. When you see a flop that you should check pretty often, then you are not allowed to bet your strong hands with a high frequency. You have to check a lot of them as well. Something like 9-6. 9-6 only bet 30% of the time, so. Here. I think this is just a fold here without spades. With the spades, you're going to call with 3 spades, but you actually call with 2 spades here as well, and you pot with 1. then you should probably okay, you mix it up with, sometimes you raise with a nut flush, and sometimes you just call. Why is that? Well, your raising range should be very small. What about okay, King Jack 9. King Jack 9 is a this is an easy call here. Even if, as you're not going to check raise that board all that often, I think you have to call a lot, even with the nut flush, I would assume. Yeah, with the nut flush you raise sometimes. You tend to call with 3 spades, and you tend to raise a bit more with 2 spades, but nothing crazy, just 40% of the time. As well with 1 spade, you raise, well, 70% of the time. And you call the rest, and you try to bluff turns and rivers, probably. Now deuce 6 jack. What should you do here? You decide to c-bet. They raise you. You c-bet because you block a set of 6s, you have 1 spade, and you have a pair of kings. But it's going to be very hard to play turns and rivers with this hand. So it's okay to bet there. Folding, yeah, then you have to fold when they raise you. And what do you do when you have kings? Do you have king 6-3? Apparently you do not have it, because you are not raising with that hand from that position, apparently. Okay. And you bought with backdoor, with the backdoor, and just with the king high flush as well. Okay. Coming a minute. Seven four deuce, 9-9-3-3. Obvious fold. Here 5-5-3. This is pretty hard. I think I would call here. Call. Is he starting to fold here? No, not with this particular hand, and he would even pot it with hearts some percentage of the time. Well, we have to check. Pot. Wow. Okay. Well, checking 48, potting 50, so I guess it's not a big mistake if you just check. Well, it's very mixed strategy here. Okay, next hand. King, Queen, Jack. Single raise pot. Should we see bet here? I think this is a board that we're going to see bet pretty often, and I think we have enough to see bet here. No, actually. So yeah, we are not going to see bet all that often. I mean, like 50-50, so something to note. It's not like an ace 3-5 when you open from early position that you should see bet almost always if you have opened from early position. So, but anyway, this is a bet, just 50. What if they raised us? What the fuck do we do here? I think we have to call. We have the set outs, and also we have a backdoor flush draw. Should we fold? No, even without flush draws, I think it's going to call here. 7. Now they bet 75. Now I think we have to fold, right? The 7 is not very good because it's a bit harder for us to pair the board. Call. But here it starts to be a mixed strategy between folding and calling. So nothing wrong if you fold here. So this was a 3-bet pot. Flop goes check, check. And here we have to fold. We get small, we get raise. I think we have to call. We have two backdoors. But see, with the backdoors you call, but however, you start to fold with queens without backdoors. With one backdoor you call, with three hearts you start folding. Without backdoors, flush draws, you just fold. Nine, 10. Here you don't like your hand. I think solver is still going to go. Maybe you have backdoor hearts. But without backdoor hearts, just start folding some here. And with the backdoors, you're actually potting here. You 3-bet, you have no spade, so I think this is going to be a check. Check, and he's going also to checks. To check some of the time with the ace of spades. Okay, with ace of spades he's going to check back some as well. So mix a strategy, checking back a lot with the nuts and with the spade blocker. With everything else as well. Deuce 3-5. They dunk into you. Call. You have a pair of kings. You have some backdoor equity as well. Without backdoor equity, you can actually fold here. So when it's closed, try to look at those backdoor flush draws in order to make your decision. Here, the preflop aggressor has to check quite often. Here, I think a check is in order. Do you raise here? No, almost never. And if we exclude the ace, then we are only raising 5% of the time. So yeah, don't check raise without the ace. Anyway, we call. Here, checking obviously. Bet 75, we have to call, I guess. just folding here. Crazy bad. We call with the 5-10 jack, we lead, he raises, and the correct answer is call. Okay. No, sorry, we already have the straight. I thought that we were bluffing. Yeah, we just call, pretty standard, because we do not have a redraw. We open, yeah, I think without hearts, with just one gut shot. I don't think we can call here. So decides to bet a bit bigger on the turn. I think without spades, I think I have to fall here. We 3-bet with this beautiful hand, a 9 jack queen. We have backdoor spades and clubs, but nothing else. So I think this is going to be a check. A bit small. Check or pot, right? No, check or bet half. So just some queen jack 8-9 are pots and some are checks, because maybe this is blocking a bit the calling range from with some backdoors or something. Not sure why, but yeah, I guess you can mix it up here. And if you bet small is fine. So 17, 22, 27, he raised 50%. And this is folder. So what happened here? Small blind raise, big blind 3 bets, and then we decide to lead, and we get raised. A bit weird lead there, I would say. I'm not sure if I like it. 7, 8, 10. We have 3 bet on the bottom with those bad aces. The board is very bad. We have backdoor clubs. I think we're going to check. Check with this particular holding. Check without backdoor equity. It's alright to just bet the flop and try to take it down, or with 2 backdoors you prefer to check. So yeah, just keep in mind some hands are too good to bet, and some hands are too weak to check back because you're not going to improve. Well, with this particular you can mix it up, I guess. And betting just 1/3 seems fine because this is pretty dry. Okay, 5-5-3. Then 10-4. We bet. He raised us. And we are obviously going to call here. Bet. What do we bet here? But I thought this was a check. The correct answer is bet. I think this is okay. With this particular holding, you want to bet 57% and check 43. Wow. Yeah, I mean, not a big mistake if you check, I guess. The thing is that when you hold a 9, the 9 of spades is not very relevant blocker, and the 10 is, or the jack is a bit more relevant a blocker, so that's why you can bet it a bit more often, probably. 7, 8. Well, I think this is an easy call. Free better on the small blind, bets 1/3 on a very dry board, gets raised. We have one backdoor. Without backdoors, we're probably just folding, right? No. Looks like they're always calling. Aces, just betting 1/3. What if he raised us? We're going to go raise. Why is that? Okay. Believe it or not, sometimes you just fold. Okay, so how should we play here? He raised us. And he raised us half pot here. We fold some of our raises, like 50%. Sometimes we stick it in. And we tend to call when we have the ace of hearts. Okay. So we raise when we have the set plus the flush draw. We call when we have the ace of hearts blocker, although we fold some of the time as well. Okay, yeah, so we call sometimes with the ace with the ace blocker just because we want to shove the turn if a heart comes. So you can think, okay, but why are you just calling with just the ace of heart and not a second heart? You are a bit unbalanced. Yeah, that's true. However, we are also going to have some hands where you are really going to have the flush draw, like say ace king 10 with two hearts, something like that could be a call on the flop. Okay, so just bet small on those boards and go from there. I mean, on ace king queen with top set, just bet small with top set. You also want kings and queens to come for the right. Here we raise and we have the king 5/4. I think this is an easy check back. Bet, really. Well, kind of a mixed strategy here. But without the hearts, you just check back. Okay, so you prefer to bet king 5-4 than king 5-4 with the hearts because you would hate being check raised on if you have the flash draw because it could be live, right? The king 5-4 sometimes you want to check to bet just because your backdoor equity is not that great. Okay, on this spot is queen 10. With 3 bet from the blind. With this queen 10, and then on the flop we pot it. And here goes Solim. What the fuck do we do here? I think we need 30% of equity. I think we have to call. Fold. Wow. You would call with any flush draw, and oh, this looks nuts. You need like 30% equity here. Okay. I don't think I would fold there, to be honest. You decide to bet with the blockers to get check raise. 4-5-9. They bet 3/4 spot. They raise you 75%. What do we do here? I think we fold. Okay, we call. We fold sometimes. With 2 hearts, with 2 clubs, we are a bit more happy calling. And we fold without the backdoors. Okay. Eight, 4-3. He leads into us. No backdoor diamonds, just a gut shot, I think. Okay, we call here. Really? Well. The 5 is very strong, the 6 and the 7 4 outs. Well, I guess we have like 7 outs, but like 2 outs. We have 5 solid outs. The 6 and the 7 of hearts is probably not great. but I guess 6s and 7s could be good once in a while. Okay, 5-10 queen. What do we do here? Two backdoors. Bet. Why do we bet here? Okay, we bet because we do not want to check fold. I mean, we do not want to check call. We do not want to. We want to see the turn, but we cannot. Check calling looks a bit weak, so he decides to check call with this hand, which has two backdoors plus a gut shot. See, those hands are checking all of those, but this decides to call. I mean, this decides to bet. Even with one backdoor flush draw, it's just a check. Okay. Also, on his shoes, he shouldn't have many queens or tens. Maybe double suited queens. He could have those, but you shouldn't three-bet many tens, something like that. Have a 4, a gut shot, no spades, but I think we can call one and one pair. Fold, okay. So yeah, without the spades, he prefers us to fold the flop. Good to know. 6, 7, 8. We 3-bet and we bet small. He raised us. We have the nut flush and backdoor equity. So I don't think we can fold, and also we have some straight potential. The 9 or something like that. Yeah, I think he's just going to pot it here. I mean, you are not super happy about the spot, but there is a lot of money out there, so. Which hands are folding? Just with one flush draw, you are sticking it in. But if you have backdoor spades or something like that, you're just folding. It's king 10 6. Okay. You decide to raise with a 6 6 7 king under the gun, and then Well, I think you have to fold here, obviously. Here with the ace queen 9, you decide to bet with these deals, which is a bit marginal, I guess. And then he raises you, so you have to fold. Here you have the ace of hearts and the jack queen and 1-9. You have raised and the big blind has rebet you, and with this particular combo I think you can bet. Yeah, I don't think you're very comfortable calling a bet, so this hand, I think it's okay to bet fold here. With bad suits, you're just checking and check folding probably. And also with the bad hearts, I think you are also check calling, I would assume. So you're folding 35 and calling 65. I think if the 6 was a 5 or something, you would call a bit more. So you decided to 3-bet with the ace queen, and then the flop goes check check, and he bets 1/2. Well, I think you have to go, obviously. No point in raising here. Apparently he's raising sometimes with the spades. Okay, on the flop, an early position raiser gets called on the button. Then 6-6-4, he checks, as he should with most of the time. Then bet, raise. What on earth do we do here? I think we're going to call here. I don't think you can fold. And on the turn, pretty difficult spot there. 6-8-9. What do we do here? You have the jack, I think we can bet 1/3. There are not many. And the correct answer is check. Check, and we check a lot. We check 3 spades, we check bad flushes. We do not flush draw, we tend to bet, but not always either. But with this particular combo, we tend to just fold in here. Eight-six deuce. No, nothing. I'm curious, but we have some. I mean, 9 of hearts, 10 of, or jack of hearts. There are some hands which give us a lot of equity on the turn, so we really want to see the turn. Maybe that's why here with this particular combo he decides to bet some of his hands as a bluff, just because it's a very weak hand. For example, what is this? Is conduct 10. Okay, because this backdoor draw is pretty weak. This is just a backdoor draw, a bluff, so to speak. With 3 hearts, he's betting the small. Okay, because what you have to understand is that 3 hearts, it's like, I mean, your backdoor draw is pretty bad. So you decide just, and you are kind of blocking a little bit the backdoor draws that your opponent may have, so that's why you may decide to bet those. Regarding the sizing, most of the time is 50, some of the time you can bet larger, but you cannot go wrong if you always bet a half pot here. With this particular holding, this is a bet half pot fold, I would assume. Having something like ace, 9, 10. Yeah, ace, 9, 10, 10 to, yeah, okay, also bet a small. So which hands do you bet big? 6s? No 6s, you bet a small as well. Five, 7. Yeah, 5-7, you tend to go a bit large. Let's see, aces. Ah, okay. Yeah, with some aces you tend to go pretty large because you do not want to see a turn. Although with some aces with 2 backdoors, I think you can bet just half pot. 7 for deuce. What should we do here? Well, I don't think the 9 is that relevant. What's it called there? Do you raise? A very few percentage of your hands you should raise on this spot. Okay, you have backdoor spades. Check. Okay, check. Although you could bet sometimes. Calling with 2 pair and blocking the queen of hearts. Normally betting, but sometimes checking as well. This is a board that you're going to check back quite often, like 50-50. You're not crashing, and the big blind has probably more 8s than you do, so I think you have to fold here, unfortunately. Call. Call, really. Checking. And we probably call it off, I guess. 2-3-4. Well, this is a check. We're not blocking anything. So this should be a board that we bet like 50% of the time, I would say. no, just 35% of the time. But with this particular holding, I think we can bet. That being said, it's going to be a check quite often just because we're not betting this board all that often. The board is pretty dry also, so you do not need to protect your hand. I think here you should probably raise. It's probably a mix between calling and voting. Okay, so let's go check. Yeah, what I was thinking is that this board is not a board where you're going to raise very often. So with this particular hand, you just call. Did you raise any of those combos? No, apparently no. Well, yeah. I mean, of course, this guy could have something like a 9, 10 jack, but if he has something like aces, kings, you really want him to stay in on the turn. I think you have a range advantage here, so you should see bet very often, and with this particular combo I think you're going to see bet as well. Well, yeah, you have a range advantage, but you're, well, yeah, you're betting like 50% of the time, and just 50% makes sense. It's pretty dry. There is no, doesn't make sense to bet 75% pot or 33. It's just a bit too small. So, but with this particular hand, it's kind of a mixed strategy as well. So, not a big deal if you check back that with that particular hand. Deuce 3-4. This misses a lot the small blind opening range. I think you have backdoor spades. I think you have to call here, but certainly you're not happy. Eight, 10 jack. I think that you have to check because you're out of position and you are not crashing the button calling range. In fact, you are going to have more aces and maybe kings, at least double suited kings that your opponent has, so he's going to have a lot of straights. So that's why I think you have to check back a lot on this flop. Yeah, so you check 90% of your hands. And what happens here, if your opponent bets half, I think you have to call with your gut shot and backdoor. A king and clubs give you a very good for the same reason, if they're holding, no, 9 queen. Okay, 9 queen is racing here. Although calling quite a bit as well. What if you have king, queen 9? King, queen 9 always racing. King, queen, queen 9. So you raise when you have additional equity, but with just queen 9. Queen 9 no backdoors, I think you're probably calling pretty often. Yeah, queen 9 no backdoors, you're calling quite often. Folding, calling once in a blue moon. So this goes 3-bet, and then you decide to bet very small on the flop, 1/3, to get check raise, and then here is time to fold. Although apparently you are calling calling with the backdoors. Pretty marginal probably. I think this has to be a check bet. Really. But the checking range is super wide here because your opponent is going to have a lot of 6-7s, probably more than you have. So you want to check very, very often. What if you have 6-7? Should you bet? No, with 6-7 you're also checking a lot. So why do we bet with this particular hand? Well, I guess the king 10-10, you are blocking your opponent's continuation range with the 10 jack. you're blocking a bit d6-7 with d6, and you may find folds from queens and kings and jacks. So that's why maybe you want to bet this particular hand. Here you 3-bet and then they dunk into you. Deuce 9-10. Well, if you raise with this hand, and I think you have to check fold this. Okay, here I think that you want to bet half pot. The correct answer is check. So you bet pretty okay, not sure why. Maybe you are planning on bluffing the turn. Could be a reason, or you're using your hand as a bluff catcher. Okay guys, have fun, see you later.